Hi folks, and welcome to the Fimbulmyrk channel. I'm in the forest and sun is really hammering down today, and I actually do like summer, but honestly it's getting a little bit much. So I'm really glad that I'm in the shadow now, and this is something that is really amazing because the temperature always radically drops when there are green trees around, and this is something we might keep in mind. uh, well, we won't, but we should. um, in terms of preparing cities for climate change, and because we won't halt it anymore, um, because it's really agreeable down here. Everything is greener than in the sun, and it's really and I feel green myself. But this is not what I want to talk about today. I want to show you a knife, and this is also something that I think I already briefly introduced you to it during my Jagdnicker video. But I thought I would give you my thoughts on the variety as a slöjd knife, because primarily it is always touted as a hunting knife, but the shape has been in use for, well, I think a millennium at least. Longest specimen were called Haus or Bauernwehr, and this one is well, it's a downsized house or Bauernwehr from history, from antiquity, and not antiquity from history is what I want to say. It's, antiquity as in synonymous with history, bygone days. And this one is a pretty interesting thing because I got it from an elderly gentleman who himself found this in the Austrian woods. And the thing is, it was another unlikely Fimbulmyrk tale, because he found it around. We met on a flea market in Remscheid near Solingen, and because he came from Solingen and he was selling some because he wanted to downsize or whatever, and he was selling some stuff, and he had this Jagdnicker on display. And back in the day I was really into, I'm still into Jagdnicker collecting, because they are a really historical piece, and actually they are vanishing, or even being vanished. This is, well, I don't want to go into detail on that. It's something that is a pretty grave topic and there's a lot to be said about the mistakes that the Solingen industry made, and but well, the type is almost non-existent and non-existent anymore. Actually, a lot of the types that you see nowadays are made in Pakistan or China or Taiwan or what have you, and a lot of them in Pakistan. And but there must be a reason why this knife has been in use for a millennium, and it's a little bit the same as with the puko. And the puko is actually something that is comparable in function to this tool, because this was a really, and up to modern days, it was a really common tool that a lot of, at least male people, had in their pocket or what have you, because this it is what it is it is a pocket knife. The sheath doesn't have any attachment to it. It's just meant to be put into a knife pouch that was sewed onto many hunting trousers. And The Lederhosen, which by the way is not a traditional German attire, but was in the in this well, historism period. It was invented by some guy of nobility in order to really feel like a peasant. And at first it didn't catch up, and quite the contrary, the church wanted to ban the lederhosen because they were much too short for their liking, and it was not according to their Puritan beliefs. And for that same reason, it also was adopted by the Bündische Jugend and Jugendbewegung, which was an alternative to the Boy Scout movement, and where also the Edelweiss-Piraten derived from, but also the Hitlerjugend. And it must have posed a real threat to the societal order. And the Lederhosen were actually not something like we know of traditional Bavarian attire, but it was a piece of clothing of rebellion. And at first it was just nobility rebelling against the norms and stiff conventions of nobility, and going on hunting excursions, and actually pretty decadent, because they wanted to feel like peasants, but didn't pay their drivers or their drovers fair wage or something. So, well, it's like always. But it was also a household item, and a lot of kitchen knives still look that way in Germany, without the stack antler handle. And this is still a Samba stack. The blade, originally there was still some of the etching left, and it said Linda. And Linda was a corporation in Solingen. The sheath hints of 1950s to 1960s origin. The blade is stainless, and there actually is a little stain, because that guy, that elderly gentleman that I met on the flea market, actually was on holiday as a youth, on holiday in the same region that was my home away from home in my youth. And we talked on endlessly. We got ourselves a coffee and talked about endlessly about the lovely landscape over there. And if you are ever in Styria, go visit Schladming, and the mountains there are really awesome. There's also, if you go over the Dachstein mountain, there is Lake Hallstatt, and this is what gave the Hallstatt period of history the nomination. And actually he found this knife in a forest near the location where I used to stay, and which really was my home away from home. It was not just a holiday venue, but we went there every year, and I had my friends there, and we went on adventures, and I actually knew where he found it, because it was in the middle of the forest, and I actually knew where he found it. And I actually went to the length that I phoned my then friends in order to find out whether or not someone of their forefathers, because he found that I think in the 70s or what have you. And my friends were actually a little bit younger, so no way that they were involved in that. but maybe their fathers or also lost, one of the fathers lost lost that knife, and that's actually another one of these tall Fimbulmyrk tales I know, and you can either believe it or not, and I'm not offended if you say, well, that's a pretty bold story. And if you treat it as just as a story, that's also perfectly okay with me. I perfectly know that I sometimes demand a lot of credibility, and this is, and I'm grateful for you guys still subscribing to me, because I know I am sometimes a little bit difficult. What I wanted to say, however, is that this shape of knife has been in use not only for, and I already go to the video down there, or to my blog where I wrote an article about it, or several articles, in fact, about the nomenclature of the Jagdnicke. But it was also primarily a tool. It was used for eating, it was used for food prepping, but it was also used for repairing stuff, cutting leather, working with wood, and what have you, because people could afford a knife, all right, but not a lot of them. And that knife needed to be pretty good, and needed to be able to do a lot of stuff. And so I thought I'd try some slate with it in order to compare it to what my pukos or slate knives do. And I will do something that is a little bit risky, because I don't know how good this blade is, and I hope it will stand up to that. I want to carve a little container. Actually, I don't know, there is a little crack. Can I carve it away? Yeah, seems to work out. And you can see this is well, that's not exactly hardwood, but it carves all right. It's this is spruce, and if you want to carve a container, spruce is not worst choice there is, and because it's pretty soft. And well, a lot of times you see people just putting a lot of pressure on the handle and just drilling, and don't do that. A knife is a cutting implement, and if you see me, I fixed the tip with between my thumb and index finger, and I go in a cutting motion. That way you don't put too much pressure on the tip, and you want to carve out a recession first, and then deepen in order to make room for your further going down, because the knife is actually sort of triangular, and so it will maybe crack the material if you will snap off the tip, and that's not a cool thing with a knife that, especially with this knife, because this also has a sort of a meaning to me, and also it's a lovely piece. I really do like for its loveliness. And so, and also I try to follow my own advice, but you also don't want to get eager. Don't overdo this, because do it slow and correct, and slow and correct will become fast and correct. And you go all the way around. And that way you are able to slowly and steadily work your way down there. Don't apply too much force because you can easily cut yourself. And also leave the piece you're working on a little bit longer than the eventual container will be, because it offers a little bit of a handle for carving. The steel is 440A, I think, which translates to 1.4109. I think, and 440A or something, 440, not 440C, because that wasn't a thing back then. And but this is a pretty basic steel, but the blade was drop forged, and this is a specialty of Solingen, and it means you heat it up to forging temperature, and then down comes the power hammer with just one bam, and the blade is ready. So you don't have a lot of decarbonization, which you would have when hand forging, if you don't do it right, and if you do it, if you hand forge on an industrial scale, that is, if you get a little bit more time and work in a well, in an artisan shop, you can do it right. And but if you're working in the industry and you have to make 100 pieces, well, top forging is the better alternative. And it also enhances the structure. And some even say that you introduce carbon to the steel, but I don't think that's relevant, at least, because it's well, because the oven often was an oil oven, and there is I think there would be soot that you could introduce into the steel, but not carbon per se, because the carbon content in the soot is a different one than on than in charcoal or coke or something. And so I don't think that's a real thing with drop forging in that setting. But the blades tend to get pretty hard, and I know that the knives of Solingen Corporation, even the ones from 1.4034, which is actually 420 steel, albeit 420 HC, which is also used by Buck, get up to 58 HRC, and some even harder. And even if they come in at 56, there are still the carbides in the chromium that aid in cutting resistance. This one is keeping up pretty well, and also it is really dexterous, and the slender handle makes it really really dexterous, even though there is this finger guard. And the thing is, you must think of this as a lever. You have seen me splitting wood by turning the handle like so, and the farther the edge is down compared to the handle, the more lever you do have, and this adds in more splitting prowess if you are going like so, but it also hinders dexterity because you have to move more material if you are doing this. And typically this is something that you don't want in slate knife. You want it as dexterous as possible, and so actually the Jagdnica design is, if you can see this, there might be this finger guard, but the edge line is just a tad below the lower line of the handle, and this aids in dexterity. So it is all in all, it's really agreeable feeling to use it for carving. It's pretty good, actually. You see that you can notice that it's not actually it's not a primarily slate knife or something, because slate knives have been developed for slate. That's the reason they are called slate knives. But honestly, works a cinch. And my father used to carry one all of the time, and maybe that's one of the reasons why I'm so fascinated with the type of knife. And pretty traditional, pretty, and I really do like this tag antler and stuff. And also, well, I find the more I carve, the less I care about the knife. I do care about the knife and maintain it, and that's not what I want to say, but it's not about the brand, it's not about the steel. If you have a halfway decent steel, you will be fine. And this is actually, this is something that I might want to add to my toolkit, and I'm not saying this lightly, because there are a lot of knives that I have tossed out of my toolkit lately, because well, you know, I fell for the hype myself, and I like survival knives. I like rugged, and I also like the atmosphere of survival knives. I grew up around the Rambo movies, but if you are doing some real life bushcrafting, and real life bushcrafting means you're whittling something, you're carving some tent pegs, you're setting up camp, you are preparing firewood, and you do some food prepping, you carve some camp implements like pot hangers and stuff, and I find I revert to pretty traditional knives more and more. And honestly, the knife I use the most these days is a Swiss Army knife, and a pretty short but awesome 20 slate knife. or the trusty Mora 122 or 106, and what's the other? I always confuse the numbers. And a spoon knife, and I don't know the number of that either. I'm not good with numbers, so to say. And but honestly, this is something that I come to realize. Maybe it's also a thing of getting old and getting older, because when you're younger, and that's not a big problem. That's not something that I would say you should skip. You want to test and try, and I tested and tried a lot of stuff, well, eventually that leads to you realizing what works and what doesn't. And honestly, sometimes the big black brutish tactical knives are not what works, and something as basic as Pucko or a German hunting knife or a Swiss Army knife, as I said. Actually, if you want to get started, get yourself some pretty basic Swiss Army knife, like the Huntsman or the Ranger. The Ranger is my favorite model, only that I wrecked the scales on my fault, and couldn't afford new ones, or I also thought about creating my own, but that's a little bit. There's one thing, standing in the woods and carving a container, but doing some precision work in the woods is a little bit more difficult. And you can see, with all this talk, and I already got a serviceable container, and actually I find this type of work is pretty telling about the performance of a knife, and because you are testing tip stability, because this is actually, there's a lot of stuff that can go wrong with that, and if you, and also it's more of a scraping motion, and a scraping motion tends to be pretty rough on your edge, and so, and if you are still able to do some fine shavings like these here afterwards, that's a pretty good sign that your knife isn't doing too bad. I hope I managed to remove the crack too, and I need to be a little bit more alert now. What actually is a little bit of a problem is the pretty thin handle, and but you can use another technique to compensate for that. But it's not ideal, as I said. It's and as I said, it's not a specialized slate knife. It's it also was made to be light and easy to carry in your lederhosen or your traditional attire. And what I can say is that the burr has moved a little bit, so it might, oh well, it might still shave. Not too bad. Still shaves. And actually I didn't expect that. A little bit grimy, sorry. So, does this work as a slöjd knife? Well, personally I would wish for a little bit of a beefier handle, but this is also a pretty small one. It has just, I think it's some 80 millimeters blade, and this was actually made as, I think as a snack knife or something. And there are pretty big ones, and I own some of them, that have a blade length of about 12 centimeters, and or even longer, but those aren't in production anymore at all, because you sometimes find some on eBay still, and or on flea markets or something like that. And it's pretty precise. This is some, if you put your thumb on the blade, it needs a bit of adaptation, because normally I don't do this in slöjd, but this adds precision, and that's cool. So I can now saw off this this container, and well, I don't think it will work for. Maybe I will take some bone glue or something, or resin to stabilize it. Now I can take my Swiss Army knife, because there's a saw on it, and saw that off. Putting that here. You can see the handle. You can look at the handle in the meantime. And just taking out my Forester. Honestly, if you are carrying a Forester for the Forester for the saw, well, actually, there is not a big reason that you should also carry a Jagdnicker, honestly, because the Forester is what the Jagdnicker is, in a package with a saw still. And I will not take it down. I'm just using gentle strokes. There are actually Jagdnicker specimen with a saw on the spine, but I would not recommend get one. If you can get one in the first, that is, because they have become pretty rare, and so I don't think you will easily find any Jagdnicker. It's a little bit different in Germany. That's with the law going to shit. A lot of people will either turn them in or dispose of them, which is a shame, because it's and I'm meaning this strictly as a historian, because it is a piece of history, and it actually is already in the process, as far as I am informed, at least, of getting on the UNESCO list as endangered crafts, and I hope that they are faster than the politicians trying to make everything crap for every one of us. And actually, I'm not proposing you go away and do knife crime by using a knife for knife things. And I think I have made myself clear enough on this channel already that knife things doesn't, to me at least, doesn't involve sticking it into other people. A knife is not a weapon for me. Not that there would not be people using knives as weapons, but you know what I mean. And just like that, you get a little container where you can put in some lip balm or something. I think I will maybe even make some lip balm in another video, because summer's still reigning supreme. I will, and if I would carve on now, I think I will ruin it. Also, something I want to emphasize that there's a time and a place to stop and call it quits, and I think this time is now, because oh well, I'm already ruining it. That's the downside with spruce, because it is also pretty brittle, and it's not brittle. I think it's more fibrous, and I will use sandpaper to finish this off, and then I will carve a stopper, maybe a little cork or piece of branch that fits in there. And well, the thing is, I wanted to know whether or not the Jagdnicker variety is suitable as a slöjd knife, and honestly, to my surprise, it is. It is a really great all-round tool, primarily as a hunting knife and for snacking, I would say, but it is also pretty great for a little bit of woodworking too. And maybe I can, oh well, that's an opportunity I don't want to miss. There's a crack in this, and let's see what it can do. So, and so much for the heavy battening. So I got a piece to work with. Doing a little bit of a power cut here, and creating sort of a rectangular section or square section. There's a little branch there, and don't know if you can see this, so that sucks. So if you want to create such a container or something, you might want to get a piece without branches or something. This applies to a lot of projects in the woods. or otherwise. And well, I want to remove the marrow now. I just want to demonstrate how to do it, how to make a little stopper, and it's already fitting. And well, I think I need to cut this off a little bit lower. And you have seen it's also pretty good for splitting if you do it sensibly. And it's obviously also not just like the Finnish pukko. It's also not a knife for heavy battening. But if you apply the right technique, you get a pretty versatile knife, and you would be able to, with very, very little provisions, you would be able to make do. And there's a saying in Germany that's "Des ist kein rechter Bur, hat kein Feitel und kein Schnur." And this translates as, or even hat kein Feier, kein Feitel und kein Schnur. And it loosely translates as, this is not a real boy who doesn't have a knife, cordage, and fire on him. And that's actually something that applies to bushcraft as well. And I think we could take a leaf out of the book of the people who came before us, and I think, and personally I do think a lot of the craze around knives being offensive weapons, and they can be used as such. I don't want to claim that this isn't happening. This is not what I'm saying, but this is the thing that my father got taught knife skills, and the fact that you don't stick knives into people by his father. I got taught by my father. And if I had kids, I would certainly talk about knives with them. But this is, in late stage capitalism, this is not something that is desired. Because if you are connected, you don't buy as many products you don't need. And for instance, I got the knife of my father, and I would have inherited it anyway, and I wouldn't buy something instead. I don't need that special knife then. And that's and I have the suspicion, let us be fair, it's not that I know everything, and I know that especially this, and I don't want to claim this and what have you. It's not, and it's also not a big conspiracy theory by the reptiloid moon Nazis from Alpha Centauri. The Nazis we get are worse enough. And if you can create with your hands, and you learned that from your father, well, that aids in your resilience. And the thing is, if you know, there's that saying, the more you know, the less you carry. And if you got a knife, cordage, and maybe a lighter or something, or matches, or well, say fire and steel or what have you, a lot of people in Austria carried fire and steel, flint and steel, up into the 20th century, and for a reason, because it was pretty resilient, and to use that. And the Horderer, the Haderlump in German, which means loosely translate the rag maker, the Harderer, was someone who made tinder rags from tinder conch, and sometimes they were also made into hats and bags. And I already made a bag from tinder conch, a little bit from Amadou, farther down the line. But it was a profession that only died out recently, and is currently being revived in at least in Bavaria and Austria. It was never dead in Romania and Hungary, and they still craft awesome hats from Amadou down there, and that's amazing. And what I want to say, these are resources that grow on trees, and these are resources that you can unlock with just a knife like that. And this is maybe even a little bit more versatile, but in a non-relevant way to me, as a puko, because the technique for hunting, for killing an animal, is enhanced by that finger guard. You could, this is the reason why there is this fuller in the middle. You can put your thumb on there, and then you stab the animal in the neck, hence the name Jagdnicker. And the Genick in German is the neck in English, and this is actually a necker, a necking knife. And the German word nicken also means I move my neck, and so it's pretty. We do have pretty much in common, by the way, and. So this would be a little bit more versatile in that, and it might be also a little bit more slicey due to the if you compare the spine thickness. A Mora is pretty slicey because it's far thinner than that in the spine, but if you would have the same spine thickness on a classic Mora Classic, it wouldn't cut as well because the grind is pretty low, and this is a full flat or to almost zero. And I put a little bit of a convex on, and that which to me enhances performance. But well, and that's that. But it's a sort of personal preference, and actually, to me, it's something that one day I use a puko and one day I use something like this, not a Jagdnicker, because these are actually collectible items to me, because if I destroy them, they are gone forever, because you can't buy them anymore. They are out of production almost everywhere, and the ones you can get are nowhere near the same quality as this one, which isn't a superior quality, by the way, but the ones you can buy are even worse, because they need to be blunt for some occasions. There are it's a little bit like with the ski and do, and which I also pretty much like, and I pretty much want to make myself one in order to try out how it would work for bushcraft. And I think it would work pretty awesome, because well, these knives were made for for outdoors people, and everyone was an outdoors man or woman, because the outdoors were everywhere. I think if we want, as a humanity, if we want to have a chance to return to nature, we should make ourselves at home with the traditions of outdoorsiness, or what have you, of the outdoors crafts again, because the resources are all there. and I picked a full jar of blackberries, and left some for the hedge, and some for the spirits, and some for the bees, and some for the animals. In case you asked, no, you didn't, but you know anyway. Um, and the resources are all there. Over there, there is some pine resin, or some spruce resin in this case, where I can make some lip balm from, where I can make some salve for wounds from, and there are medicines and provisions everywhere. Um, this was a rotten branch, and there's still enough left for some bugs to live in. And I don't need to take the entire wood in order to create something. And I treasure every last piece of wood, and I will take this home too, because we call someone like this a messy, and someone who has a hoarding problem, a hoarder, and who clutters up his apartment. And yeah, well, but if you look to indigenous cultures, this is what they do. If they come across resources, they collect them in order to have something to work with when they need it. And maybe we should all become hoarders more, because the times that are coming will be pretty hard, and we need to find a way to endure and find our resilience. And I think that knives like this go a long way towards that, because they are time tested and proven, and they are not something like some tactical concept which doesn't work for a civilian anyway. But they are something that common people used, and for common people things. And there's a reason why your paring knife in the kitchen looks like this, because it comes from this knife and it derives from that knife. And so, you know, that's something that people have used for ages, and we need to return to that mindset that people had back in these days. And so, long story short, I hope you enjoyed the video. I hope it was halfway informative, helpful, or what have you, entertaining. And now you know things you never asked for. But no, I hope you find some time out in the woods. Stay sane and healthy, and I hope to see you soon. Bye.